So tell me a bit more about the award. And look, I know partnering with many businesses how hard it is to invest in long-term development programs. And this is a long term, right? It's like eight 9 months. The team go through this, and again, the book shows some wonderful examples of program interventions, and it also is very authentically saying how some of those programs get cut short, or only a short hit is initially undertaken by the organisation. So tell us about how you won this award, the kind of time span it went over, how the business went for that kind of time span, I guess, and the kind of outcome you got as a result of that.
Okay, so the award opens for there's a webinar for potential entrants December, January time, and you then submit your first application during February, and you'll get feedback on that within about 2 or 3 weeks on how you can develop your application, and then you make your final application. And with that, you're looking at 3 hallmarks. The first is, why did you choose training? The second is, how was it deployed? And the third was the return on the investment. So those are, broadly speaking, the 3 areas. Now, the probably the most important one is the third area, the return on investment. It's very hard with training to know, well, would that have happened anyway? It's like marketing, advertising, well, would you have had that sales success without that advert? And it's the same with training to much a degree. And what I like about the program we have is we have a pre and post measure of mental toughness, but we're also able to understand the projects that people are working on because they work here, they're based at the headquarters. We can observe the impact that they have. The managers can observe the impact that they have. So we had to demonstrate that return on investment in our submission. And then the pièce de la résistance was the second stage, which involved 25 people, including yourself and I, but we had to have senior business leaders involved, general managers involved, line managers of the participants involved, the participants themselves. They specifically wanted people from each cohort to be represented. So we got 3 or 4 people from each cohort, and each of them discussed how the program had benefited them personally and professionally, and then were put under quite tough questioning, actually, by the judges. And then we had to explain our side in a very timed way, what we'd done with the program. And that was the end of your entry. But that was a 3-hour Zoom call with 25 people. And the next I heard was when I was on holiday in Cornwall, down in lovely Cornwall, down there by a beach that I used to spend a lot of time at, Travone Head, as a boy on holiday. And that was where I passed my phone and asked my kids to have a look at Twitter and tell me whether or not we've been listed as somebody who'd been recognised. And I'm happy to say that beach still has happy memories for me.
Excellent. Now, listen, you mentioned about some of not just the impact on the business, right, but you also mentioned about the participants sharing personal gain from the program as well as the professional impact. So tell me what you noticed about the personal gains participants were having.
Everybody comes to CornerStone in a different place, and I think certainly as we've progressed through the period before, during, and after the pandemic, you can certainly see that there's a lot of people in different places for lots of different reasons, depending on their experience, depending on their stage of career, depending on the support they've had, access to training. So mid-career movers may have lost access to training for a number of years. New starters from the early career side may not have completed their schooling or college in the way that they had expected. So we've certainly seen that. And what we've found is that the most popular module in terms of personal impact is absolutely emotional intelligence and resilience, coming back to that word from earlier on, and people being able to name their emotions. People understanding their emotions, being able to understand the emotions of others. And of course, that transcends the personal as well as the professional experience. And when you hear people say, I now get on better with my mother, brother, father, partner, children, that's really gratifying, because you've permanently and positively, hopefully, impacted a relationship that is a very important one. And because they're happier in their personal world, by discovering some of these things, they can contribute more fully and at a higher level in their professional world in many cases.
Excellent. Well, I mean, that's a great thing to see. And I guess that is one of the amazing things about the tool itself. It's not just thriving under pressure at the workplace. It does impact people in their lives in their entirety, doesn't it? I guess.
And there are those that want to put a number on return on investment, Adrian. And the Princess Royal Training Award was very clear that whilst they were delighted for us about the improvement in the mental toughness scores, what they really wanted to understand is, well, what did that mean on the business? So the answer to that, for those who like their numbers, is that for every £1 we've invested in the Cornerstone Programme, we've seen an average of £8.1 profit drive back from that. So there's an amount of money that each person we know has contributed to the business. And some of these contributions, by the way, have been exceptional in the millions, and others will have been more modest in their work, in their amount, but still significant in terms of their contribution. And I've no doubt these people will continue to contribute large amounts to the business in the years to come, but also, of course, contribute as a good coach, as a good mentor, and as a good colleague and a good listener.
Model itself, Jason. What do you like about the model?
The model, that it's easy to explain. I'm somebody who classically can only remember 3 things. So remembering 4 things is for the 4 C's. It's a bit of a challenge sometimes. But I like the fact that you can explain it and people immediately show interest at all levels of the business. If our model that's easy to explain and clearly connects to the performance of the business, then you're more likely to be able to attract the engagement of the stakeholders that ultimately give you the green light to go ahead with a program like this and sustain it. And being able to communicate it means that they get curious, and then they want to take a mental toughness profile, and they want that debrief. They want to understand it. They want to understand what it means for their team, for them, how they can help others develop it as well, because they recognize mental toughness as a valuable trait.
And it's interesting you mentioned the simplicity aspect, Jason, right? And I would say in the pressure point business, we probably have 8 or 9 psychometric tools at our disposal to use in programs. And listen, they all have wonderful pros and cons. But what I specifically like about the mental toughness is its simplicity, and therefore the speed at which people understand it, get it, can apply it to themselves, and have those light bulb moments to plot and plan a way forward. And I really like that about the tool, that it's not a 50-page detailed breakdown of your psychology, which nothing wrong in that, but it just enables us to move pretty quickly, and for individuals just to hone in on areas. And also, let's not forget, it can be used as a cultural tool, and I guess predict how people will think when things happen to us. Let's not forget, culture is a complex thing, but ultimately we could distill culture into group think. So if you can begin to understand and predict how people will think when things happen to us, that's a huge insight into people behavior and people performance ultimately.
And we use that actually in our recruitment as well to understand exactly the same. So when I'm recruiting for technical trainers, particularly because their life is quite pressured, they are trying to get through an amount of information at a set speed. They're trying to engage with delegates who may be at all different levels of knowledge and experience, and may even come from different mother tongues from abroad, and they could be quite challenged. So there's a lot of pressure when you're a trainer. So actually understanding how you're going to perform under pressure is a good indicator of how you're going to be every day at work, no?
Mm-hmm. Really good. And those of you who don't know the tool, when you do complete the questionnaire, it does yield 3 reports, which I think is fantastic. One which is specifically a development report for the coachee, and it delivers another report for the coach or the line manager that can again enable a better conversations, great questions. And yes, it gives an assessor report, which again gives you brilliant questions to ask applicants, I guess, on a recruitment process. So it's really good to hear that you use that.
Well, that's our contribution to the book, isn't it, really, Adrian? I think we've covered that in quite a lot of detail. But what I wanted to ask you a little bit about, I know that we've both read the book, parts of it a couple of times. What was it that really struck you about the book and the contributions that the other authors made?
In my field, it's sometimes difficult to get a perspective of what else, be it competitors or colleagues, are doing in that world, and what came across is in fact many things, but I would say the importance of, and I guess I would say this, of partnership, working really well with an external and an internal, and working together to build something that will help solve a problem within the business. And that comes across throughout the book, that all these experienced expert practitioners are working closely with opposite numbers in organizations, within the organization, to create programs that will have an impact on the three levels of individual contributor, team, and management level to the organization itself. So I think that again the range you mentioned earlier of industries, be it manufacturing, education, public sector, it's got a just great breadth of case studies, I guess, to pull from, and again the variety of ways that you can use the tool to shift the dial. I think that's certainly one of the things I personally got from the book. And the authenticity, right? What's lovely about the book as well is that the author, the contributors, explain the tool, but it also goes on to share some of the challenges you can face when looking to drive a program that will give long-lasting change through. So it's a great book. It's a great read.
I think one of my favourite chapters, and I'm going to ask you for yours in a moment, but I'm going to choose mine first. My favourite chapter is actually chapter 7, obviously after chapter 5, obviously, but my favourite chapter is chapter 5, which is about the Polish volleyball team and how they were failing despite big financial investments, and they used the mental toughness approach and the coaching to really develop that team to ultimate success. How about you? What's your favourite chapter?
Yeah, do you know something? That chapter is brilliant, and I've had a lot of work in Poland. And Poland are very into the mental toughness aspect. And I thought that chapter was an excellent chapter, and not what was unusual about that particular chapter, if I can recall, is Wojciech, the contributor, the trainer and coach. He talks about the impact that dominance can have in a culture. And those dominants can have often, in some of the constructs, high scores and or high traits, should I probably say, and the impact that can have on the others, those around them. So he actually starts off by talking about how the program wasn't used, how the tool wasn't used because of the impact of some star players who probably had high interpersonal confidence. Probably confident in their abilities too, but certainly a strong level of life control, and they dominated the others that stopped the program going through. I kind of concur. I kind of really like that one too. What other ones did I say that I would like? It was a chap called Paul Lyons. For those of you read the Paul Lyons chapter, he talks about how through the pandemic, the lockdown, how his team, so not even talking about his clients, his team had to kind of really dip into the constructive concept itself, to adapt, to believe in themselves, to change, and to adapt for that business to survive. And I think that's a really kind of close to home kind of read, right? Yeah. So I think I love that. But look, I could wax lyrical about all the chapters. They all have something really brilliant to pull from them. Even the way that our good friend Doug at the end pulls it all together at the back, because even at the end you've got this wonderful journey going through of application of the tool to have some impact on culture, be it on a team level, be it on an organizational level. It gets to the point where Doug, with his wisdom and sheer depth and knowledge of the tool, just brings it all together towards the back. So Yeah, it's a well put together book.
I think my other favourite call out would have to be chapter 1, which was about wellbeing and performance by Maureen Keegan in a local authority in the UK. And she described how there were 120 managers and she could hear whispers of people saying that they were a 10, feeling very happy about being a 10, and how she would now have to go on stage and dispel the myth that 10 was what it was all about. I can only imagine
Yeah,
how that
yeah,
must have been with an audience that
listen,
large.
100%. But look, even with Maureen's chapter, she talks about um, she'd created her own model around it, and one of
Mm.
those was around restoration and mindfulness. And as we know, in the way that we've constructed our program within Cornerstone, we don't necessarily use that language, but building relationships is incredibly important. Having strong networks around you to help you get to the yes, to help you get to what you need to happen, and therefore having things such as strong life control, strong emotional control, the ability to plan, and the ability to take calculated risks, but back yourself with your abilities and have strong interpersonal confidence are key aspects of making that happen, which is why the tool is brilliant at underpinning and measuring all of those things in the first place. But then she goes on to talk about mindfulness, the importance of mindfulness, and bring in certain aspects of I'll call it mental training, if I may use that phrase. I might disagree with that particular coin phrase on it, and how they all overlapped. But as you know, mindfulness is certainly one of the aspects we bring into the program, and we introduce it in a really applicable way to the delegates, but they understand the importance of training the mind.
Yeah, I think it's all about that. How do you cope with different situations? How do you calm the mind in the most pressured of times? How do you, and I can imagine Maureen needed her own dose of mental toughness to go on stage and explain it to those 120 managers. But how do you calm the mind so that you can perform at your best, especially when under pressure, but
Yeah,
also in
100%.
normal times too?
Yeah, 100%.
Because often your biggest opportunities are pressured, aren't they?
Yeah, listen, 100%. And I think they always say there's much learning in failure, much learning in adversity, which I 100% agree with. But look, businesses are under pressure. Let's no qualms about it. The business landscape is a challenge at the moment for many, and to be able to lean into it and show your best, turn up to be your best, and deliver the outcome that you really want, and control the controllables, and deliver to your best. I think that's really key, and the mental toughness construct is a simple way of helping you get there really quickly. Oh, actually, let me put not really quickly, but in an uncomplicated way. Let me
Ah,
put that
nice. I like your
way,
phraseology
yeah,
there.
yeah, uncomplicated way.